calling the meeting to order, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Great. In a second.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? That motion passes. And the next item on the agenda is Suzanne.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Suzanne Urkel, the City Council member with a City Council report. I'll start with, they did an update to the cemetery policy. Nothing major changes, just some small shalls to wills and mays to shalls to mays, that kind of thing. Our attorney contract will be starting, we'll have our new attorneys on June 1st, so we're looking forward to that. Capstone withdrew from that final plan that they had submitted that everybody voted against, so everybody's happy about that. We tried to make a purchase an area on Sims Road, and we had a temporary agreement, and we got outbid, I guess, from what I understand. So verbal contracts are not always good. Nexus, as you know, lost their license, so that will be empty. What they will do with it is everybody's unsure of yet. At the EDA meeting, we had somebody submit a market research that talked about how much money the city is losing by not having certain businesses here. And we did get approved money from the state and from the feds for our next tower for the schools. So the schools can have some clear water finally. Any questions? Questions? Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next item is the approval of minutes. Does anyone have any comments, corrections?
Line 192, redundant use of the word use. That's all I could find.
Thank you for that. Okay. Any other corrections? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Great. And second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion passes. And the next item on the agenda is up to you, Mr. Johnson.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair and Councilor, Commission members. What you have before you tonight is the variance request at 255 Laurel Road related to setbacks from lot lines and proximity to structures as codified in City Ordinance, Chapter 74, and referenced in the State of Minnesota Rules, Chapter 780 through 783. And I'll do my best to move through this quick because I know you have a lot on your agenda. So I won't go through it blow by blow, but we'll wander through some maps and get to the meat of it. So as I said, the applicants Nicole and Curtis Lindbergh of 255 Laurel Road are requesting variance to allow replacement of a failing septic system. The property as shown on the map on the screen is approximately 100 foot by 100 foot residential lot in the Coon Lake Beach area. The request again includes requested setbacks for septic tanks, for drain fields, property lines, and the existing residence. The submitted materials identify three main setback reductions. The holding tanks are proposed be 6 feet from the property line, and those are on the north side of the site, where 10 feet is typically required. A drain field is proposed to be approximately 13 feet from the residence, where 20 feet is typically required. And a portion of the drain field is also proposed approximately 1 foot from the easterly property line, where 10 feet is typically required. So why are they seeking this variance? Again, they have a failing septic system. The site certainly is constrained by its small size, the existing improvements, the neighboring well locations. To that point, we had on the previous map, the neighbor to the west has a shallow well, and that is on the west side of their home, and the current septic field is in the rear of the applicant's property. So they need to move this septic field to a different location or drainage field, and really their only location they can presumably find is on the east side of the property. Because of these constraints, applicants indicate there's no fully compliant location available that satisfies all of the required separation distances, so thus the variance. So we always approach variances in the city ordinance by, they have to meet 3 tests. And if we recall, those 3 tests are, does not, step back. 3 practical difficulty tests. First, is it a reasonable use of the property? Certainly the applicants are seeking to replace a failing septic system, and serving the existing residents. They're not seeking to expand the facility beyond what they need. They're not trying to serve a different property. So certainly from that standpoint, it is a reasonable use of the property. Secondly, is the circumstances generally unique to the property? Are they facing something that anybody else in the in the neighborhood would not face? And generally speaking, all of the lots there are constrained by size, ages of septic, well locations. But in this case, that well location on the west side of the neighboring to the west at 265 is also within that setback challenge of 100 feet. So by that test, they meet that definition of it being unique to the property. And finally, would the requested variance materially alter the essential character of the surrounding area? Certainly the property and its use, if approved, would remain residential in nature. There's no increase in density. And the reduced east side setback is adjacent to the public right-of-way, which is certainly not somebody else's home or a well location. So that 1 foot doesn't appear to be as critical. I'm gonna bounce back and forth a little bit with some of these maps. The site zoning is zone CL, and it also is a Coon Lake District with the Shoreland Overlay Zone. They're at 255, and certainly that is an old neighborhood. A lot of these houses have original septic systems. A lot of these houses have shallow point wells, and it's just part of the nature of that part of the community. So it's certainly compliant with the zoning. The future land use is similar to the site zoning. It's guided it's guided low density residential, and the applicants are certainly not proposing to change any of that. Go back one more time to I'm going to talk a little bit about this 1 foot right-of-way line to the setback. I mentioned it's less concerning, for lack of a better word, city's right-of-way is there. The city has if I'm not mistaken, it's a 50-foot right-of-way between that and the property across the street. So it is not gonna impact somebody else's home and likely not somebody else as well. But we'll touch base on that a little bit further. City did receive a comment from a neighbor who resides in this property, indicating a concern that this application, would this affect their well? I'm understanding they have a shallow point well too, which also requires a 100-foot setback. So you see two concentric rings on this drawing. The red would be the approximate south end of the septic field they propose, and the blue would be 100 feet from the north end of the septic field they propose. Appears to be out of a 100-foot right of, or a 100-foot distance from this person's well, similar to the property on the west. At this point, I can't speak to the property to the south or the property to the north. Those would ultimately have to be verified, but that's something that would be caught up with in the permit application. So it really comes from, so the city has two tests. One is it meeting our variance standards and practical difficulties, and in short, staff believes it does. So we have to pivot to the other concern that staff has is if it's not meeting the 20-foot setback, which is the standard established by the MPCA, as shown on the chart in yellow here, they make it very clear that setbacks from property lines can be varied. They don't quite make it as clear that properties can be varied from the 20-foot setback. So what the city is saying and what we're proposing in the resolution is 13 feet may be workable, but the applicant needs to provide information through their permitting process that it's still meeting the standards found in subparts 2A through D. And if you read through those, basically it's requiring the applicant or their contractor to meet all treatment dispersal methods to conform to all federal, state, and local regulations, but for the setback. That the treatment and dispersal processes must prevent sewage or sewage effluent contact with humans, insects, or vermin. The concern with the reduced setback from 20 feet to 13 feet, or presumably even lower, is that could that seep into the home, into the basement? Would there be a pressure issue? You know, we don't know. We're not designers, so we're just trying to account for that. And part C talks about treatment dispersal of sewage or effluent must be in a safe manner that adequately protects from physical injury or harm. If you have seepage, if you have some kind of intrusion into the home over time. Now, it's not going to warrant for 50 years, but is there a practical timeline involved? Is that the contractor would be stating that it will meet that Part C test. That is largely the issue at hand. It meets all of your variance requirements from staff perspective. We think the setbacks to the north and to the east are reasonable for the septic tanks and the 1 yard distance from the right of way. Here is an image. This is the applicant's front yard looking north, and the new septic field would be in this area. The lot line is probably parallel or just west of these trees somewhere. It isn't always the roadway. And so given those distances, it should be okay. We're speculating. Ultimately, the city building official is going to need to be the entity to sign off on this. So it is not me. is a city building official. So if the applicant shows up with a plan that says, hey, here's the 13 feet, we believe it meets all these tests, here's our acknowledgement, here's our certification of this, the building official has indicated that he would be comfortable issuing this permit. So that kind of is the staff position on this. It's a lot to interpret from a state code requirement. Perhaps there are communities that have issued 13-foot setbacks. Some cities don't offer setback. The rule is 20 feet. Why is it 20 feet? Again, we didn't write the rule. We're just trying to interpret it. So to boil all that together, what staff had prepared for you and in your packet is a resolution that basically summarizes all those things and grants or proposes a granting of variances for all the things they had sought, with the condition that prior to number one, I'll skip number two. I think we're covered on that for existing wells. But number one talks about making sure when they submit plans and specifications for installation that their contractor is warranting to the city that it's meeting those tests. So if it fails, it is not the city holding that burden. Rather, it's their designer and the installer. The part in yellow I'd ask you just to ignore. I was thinking about actually, if you wanted to talk about it, you could talk about the adjacent wells, but I think we can catch up with that in any permitting process. The applicant should probably find out where those wells are if they come to that point. But so that's kind of it in a nutshell. I know the staff report was lengthy, so.
Okay, well, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm going to open the public hearing for this, and I'd like first, anybody who is not the owners that want to speak, come up. If you have any questions, then we'll have the owners answer them. Does anyone who's not the owner want to come up and speak? Okay, Jim. And if you could, and Jim, did you put your name and address on the paper?
You want this over there?
No, we're going to just keep it there.
Okay. Jim Smith, 23620 Davenport. The Lindberghs contacted me probably a couple months ago. Maybe it's longer than that even now. I don't know if you can hear me, but.
There you go.
And with this issue, and I think all of us that live in the area know that it's an issue over there. It's unfortunate we didn't create it, and neither did they. And I've been working with the septic guy, Josh from Casper, and I've talked with Eric and the Lindberghs, and what Eric presented is basically the only thing that we can do with it. And the wells are an issue, so the Lindberghs too, if you agree with us to do this, that they gotta put in a new well, actually too, and a deep well, because right now they have a shallow well, and that's like everything around the area. And so, I mean, it's quite a process, and for them, I mean, I understand they've been taking and doing their laundry elsewhere. So, I mean, it's costed them a lot of money, and I mean, I feel bad about it. I didn't create it, neither did they.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that you guys will consider this, because over there, like I said, everything I believe at one time was just supposed to be seasonal living. Well, over the years, now we've got full-time living. A lot of the septic systems weren't made to do that. So, unfortunately, I think they have one of them. So, but like I say, we do have an answer for it. We just have to approve some variances to make it work. I've talked to Josh at Casper. He says the system that he plans on installing will work. So I just want to let you know. So I've been involved with it for a little while now, same with Suzanne. So, that's my take. Any questions?
I appreciate it. I am concerned about the 13-foot versus the 20-foot from the house, and what are your feelings on that?
I was concerned at first about that too, but they have what they call, I believe it's a pressure, is it a pressure?
Pressure bed.
Pressure bed for the drain field. And I talked to Josh about that, and normally on a drain field, you have like a wiffle ball around the whole perimeter of it. This is just on the bottom. So the system's pressurized and it forces it down into the bed of rocks, the liquids. So the chances, it could happen, but chances of it going out are slim versus if you have a regular drain field system, it could go anywhere. So I feel good about that, actually, myself. 13 feet, I have no issue with it, personally.
Anyone else have any questions?
How far is that, do you know where the water table is in relation?
I honestly don't know. But I mean, the septic guy, he knows where all that is, because you gotta be so far from mottled soil and stuff like that, so everything can drain, so you don't get into the water table.
Right, but usually the idea is that it evaporates like
Right.
rather than being pushed down, so.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know what that is. Can't help you. Anything else? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, anyone else who is not the owners want to address this? If not, would the Lindberghs come up, please? And when you come up, you can both be together if you'd like. Just state your names and speak into the microphone if you can.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Nicole
I'm Curtis.
And your last names and your address,
Lindbergh.
please.
Lindbergh, and then 255 Laurel Road. I wrote up a little letter here to kind of explain the last 2 years of our lives to help maybe better understand where we're coming from. So good evening, my name is Nicole Lindbergh. I'm here with my husband Curtis, and the realtor who sold our house to us, Eric Lindbergh, is also here. First, thanks for taking the time to hear our request. We understand that variances are not granted lightly, and we appreciate the opportunity to explain why we're requesting this variance. This has been an ongoing process for over 2 years. During that time, our septic system has continued to deteriorate and become increasingly problematic. Rather than improving, the condition has progressively worsened, leaving us with a situation that is no longer sustainable. We're not requesting a variance because we simply want a different septic design or because of personal preference. We are requesting a variance because our property creates a practical hardship. Our home sits on a 100 by 100 foot lot, as Eric showed, and the required setbacks cannot realistically be achieved within the physical limitations of this property. This request is based on the characteristics of the land itself. It's not something we created, and the lot dimensions and surrounding constraints leave very limited options. We also understand that East Bethel has previously recognized the challenges associated with other properties in Coon Lake area and other historically plotted neighborhoods with smaller lot sizes. City records from a prior septic variance approval at 138 Laurel Road Northeast noted that the neighborhood has significant number of septic variances due to the age and the neighborhood and the limited lot sizes. While we understand every application must be evaluated in its own merits, our property presents similar challenges involving a small lot and physically limitations that cannot be reasonably changed. Additionally, while researching septic standards and constrained properties in neighboring Midwestern states with similar land characteristics, including Wisconsin, Iowa, and the Dakotas, we found examples where smaller setback distance are permitted than the 20-foot standard being applied in Minnesota. So you had talks, Sharon, about the 13-foot. We've seen 10 feet be the norm in other neighboring cities and states surrounding us. States surrounding us, not cities. While we understand Minnesota and East Bethel have their own standards and every system must be evaluated individually, our research reinforced that engineered systems and site-specific considerations can allow flexibility while still maintaining safe and effective water waste treatment. This further supports our understanding that a reduced setback can still provide a safe and responsible long-term solution when a unique lot constraints exist. We love living in our house. If we did not, we would not have gone through this for the past 2 years. We want to make this work. We've made significant sacrifices to stay in our home and to reduce strain on our failing system. For the past 2 years, we've significantly reduced our water usage. We do all of our family's laundry at a laundromat rather than at home. We were advised approximately 2 years ago to not drink our well water, and since have been purchasing water from Culligan. We have been unable to use our water softener, and the condition of our system has become so limiting that we cannot comfortably have guests or family over because of the additional water use creates concern. The septic system has backed up into our house already on one occasion, which is disgusting. We have been pumping the septic tank approximately every 3 months compared to every 3 years, which is another financial obligation. These adjustments have affected our daily lives and created ongoing expenses and limitations for our family while we've attempted to responsibly manage the failing system and remain in our home. We have also attempted to identify a solution that maximizes or minimizes impacts to neighbors' properties and preserves existing conditions where possible. The neighboring property directly west of us at 265 Dahlia Drive in East Bethel, they have health concerns and they're not in a position financially to relocate their well, which is why we're asking for this variance. We believe the proposed solution allows us to address our hardship while minimizing the impacts on their surrounding property. We would also respectfully ask the Commission to consider the long-term practicality of holding tanks as an alternative for our property. We understand that holding tanks are an approved option in certain circumstances. However, unlike engineered septic systems, a holding tank does not provide wastewater treatment and instead functions primarily as a storage system which requires ongoing pumping and removal. Holding tanks were developed for situations where water waste treatment systems could not reasonably be installed due to site limitations or environmental concerns. In our situation, we are proposing an engineered system specifically designed for constrained site conditions that is intended to provide long-term wastewater treatment and management rather than continued reliance on storage and repeated removal of wastewater. For our family, a holding tank would create an ongoing and indefinite dependence on repeated pumping, monitoring, alarm systems, and long-term costs. Those responsibilities and expenses would continue not only during our ownership of the property, but would also transfer to the future homeowners. We believe that replacing one long-term hardship with another does not provide the most practical or sustainable solution for this property. The proposed septic system includes multiple safeguards designed specifically for a constrained site and a high water table conditions, and is intended to treat and manage wastewater while complying with the applicable performance standards. We believe a long-term treatment solution better serves both the property and the surrounding community than a system that relies on continual storage and repeated removal of wastewater. We are not asking to avoid regulations or create an exemption for convenience. We are requesting reasonable consideration due to a unique hardship associated with the size and configuration of our property. The proposed system has been engineered to comply with applicable requirements, and the requested variance addresses a dimensional limitation that cannot realistically be overcome. Our family wants to remain in the community we love and move forward with long-term solution to a problem that has affected us for years. Thanks for your consideration.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions?
Okay, and we're just gonna ask you to stay up here. We may
Yeah.
have some questions for you.
Sure.
Anybody? Questions?
You been working with Josh at Casper?
Yep.
Mr. Smith was telling us, and he speaks highly of the system that he has designed for your situation.
Yeah.
Did he speak to it specifically with regards to the Minnesota subsections A through D?
So he did have a conversation about how he's installing a septic system like he would at any other place. The only difference is it's 13 feet from the house instead of 20. Can he predict the future and make sure that everything's going to run smoothly? Of course not. Does he have faith that this system is actually going to work as intended? He does. Which is the only reason why we're here requesting a variance, because we don't want sewage water into our home.
Thank you.
I guess, quick question, and sorry for your pain, I know this is not a fun situation to be in, but I am curious, how many bedrooms do you have and how many people do you have in your household?
Yeah, so we're a 3-bedroom house with 1 bathroom, which is already problematic, but we're making it work. There's 4 of us. There's my husband and I and our 2 children. We have a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Got it,
Yep.
beautiful, thank you. And I assume, as a follow-up, that the septic system that they're proposing is designed for a 3-bedroom home of your size?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
No other questions for the Lindberghs? Okay. Well, and do you have any other questions for us? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And anyone else want to speak to this issue? Yeah, come on up, Jim, please.
I forgot to ask Nicole and them, did Josh do a soil boring?
Yes.
He did.
Yep.
So that should be good for the water table he should know exactly where that is then.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm closing the public hearing, and do you folks have anything that you want to discuss?
I actually, you know, I have sewer and water as my background. So I reviewed this, went past the house, and I have no concerns with it. I respect the opinion of the neighbor who has concerns, but due to her being, according to this, circle being more than 100 feet away, I don't think that we'll have an issue with it. So I truly, with what they've been through, I am sure they're gonna pump it on the regular program like you should, and that thing will last them a long time. It'll last them many years, you know. There's no doubt in my mind it'll last 30, 40 years, and I'm confident with the design set before us of working well for them. So I'll be voting for it.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
Yeah, I mean, this would be a tough situation. I mean, we want what's best for the residents, yes, and this is a practical difficulty. The part that caught me in this write-up was that without technical certification, approval cannot be given by the city, and I'm wondering if that's going to hold us up on this. Eric spoke to, with that, then the proprietor of that certification would then be responsible should something go wrong. But without it, then the city's going to be stuck holding that, and I guess that's where I'm kind of caught right now. That's kind of making me think that maybe we're not allowed to do this, just because we're not having a technical certification state that this isn't going to adversely affect the surrounding area.
Is that something that can be part of our resolution?
Commissioner,
Or does it-
maybe if I understood what you're saying correctly, maybe I missed it. So what we're suggesting in the ordinance, or in the draft resolution, is that the Caspers, let's just say it's them, can provide us their certification that it meets, their design meets these parts A through D, which aren't high tests to meet. I mean, they're practical, they're reasonable things to comply with. And then that would get our building official comfortable with issuing the permit. That's what he needs to say, I'm good with this. Because the city, through his office, can't be the one to certify it. Rather, he will rely on, his license relies on Casper's license. So we're trying to say, in terms of resolution, that the applicant's contractor will provide that certification prior to the issuance of the permit. If I understand septic contractor, I think they all have a state surety bond. I think they're all required to carry some securities with the state in the event there's a default or in the event there's a claim. and those have to last X number of years. Will this system last 50 years? Probably not. There's going to be a reasonable lifespan of any septic system. But I think from a city perspective, if the contractor will certify that it's all going to work just fine and meet these tests, I think we're comfortable with it from staff perspective.
Okay. All right, then yes, if those conditions are gonna be met, then yeah, I'm,
If I answered your question correctly,
Yes,
or clear, okay.
forgive my misinterpretation of that statement. But yeah, as long as those are met, I would say we should recommend approval of this.
On here, any questions?
I'll just add my perspective. I agree with the staff's recommendation, but that also we should make sure that they confirm those two neighboring locations of the wells, so that there's, no concern, with that. But otherwise, I agree that this seems like the most logical option considering the constraints of their lot.
Okay, thank you. On page 32 of 63 is a resolution proposed. Does anyone want to make a motion on that?
I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission recommends approval of the variances associated with the replacement septic system at 255 Laurel Road Northeast, subject to the conditions outlined in the draft mentioned on page 32.
Great. And is there a second?
Seconded.
Great. Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Being none, that motion passes. So, great. And then this will be going through the city council at which meeting?
First meeting in June.
Okay. Thank you for your nice presentation. Okay, the next item, number 6, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, here we go, that doesn't help you. Let's see. Okay. Thank you again, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Tonight before you is a site plan review submitted by, I'm going to butcher this, what he said? For the property located at 4904 217th Avenue Northeast, and it is a Buddhist temple. The request involves construction of approximately a 6,400 square foot open-sided pavilion or shelter structure over an existing concrete slab associated with the temple property and a previously issued conditional use permit. The structure is intended to support religious, cultural, ceremonial, fellowship, and community activities associated with the existing place of worship use. So, one procedural clarification. Really, there are two things before the council or the city related to this. One is a site plan review, and that's something that is truly before the Planning Commission tonight. But the other thing is an administrative subdivision, which ultimately is in the venue of the city council to consider and take an action on. And I'm not something you have to engage tonight, but I want to share that with you so you understand some of the background and why it's important, nevertheless. So, right now the temple property consists of 2 parcels. This parcel to the west, which is smaller, and the larger parcel to the east, which is larger, I believe 39 acres and approximately 20-some acres. Certainly it's in the write-up. But for the general overview right now, the exact acreage aren't too important. They also own this old farmstead here, and there's some accessory structures here. And so the use of this shelter building relates to the temple itself and their activities and their house of worship, and so its use, it's associated with the property next door. In this home, on this side of the property, the applicants reside. Again, I'm using probably the wrong term, but monks live there, and let's see if I get rid of that, make the big. And so they reside here, and they do what they do here on this property, but they cannot have this large accessory structure that serves a different parcel. In addition, they already go awry of the total accessory structure size on this parcel. So what the approach here is to move this property line to the east, bring this building into better alignment in terms of its actual parcel use with the temple, and then they would have the full capacity for an accessory structure and meeting those size requirements. So that is why they are proposing a subdivision of this land to meet those parameters. Let's see if I can find a colorful map that shows that. That doesn't help you. I gotta remember to bring in my mouse. I can't stand these pads. All right. Okay. Let's see if I can pivot it. So this is the final result of the two parcels after they moved that lot line. Recall that lot line was here, and it's basically being reconfigured to this point on the east. And so it won't trigger any other park dedication requirements or significant subdivision requirements. But that's why they are proposing this subdivision at the same time. From a zoning and condition and CUP background, this property is zoned rural residential. This is the entire property as shown. There is also an overlay zoning district of significant natural and environmental area. None of where they're proposing to build or have built is, certainly it's within that area, but is not covered by trees, it's not wetlands, it's none of those things. The city's significant natural environmental area doesn't go by parcel size, parcel lines. It's rather is where is it affected by the actual type of natural space. So it's zone rural residential with that overlay. And the city's comp plan also guides it to remain rural residential or low, see here's the rural residential area. You can still see the temple and this and that. So the land use parameters aren't changing. So where does that leave us? So what we know is in 2022, the city, the temple did want to construct that temple. And so they applied for a conditional use permit, and they were granted this in 2022. And so this is what they are operating under. Houses of worship are allowed as conditional use permits in the rural residential zone. But if they want to build a new permanent structure, they're required to go through a site plan review. And that's what's before you tonight. And that's stated in their conditional use permit. So in looking at the site plan, and the proposed building, well, let's just look at the site. If you haven't driven over there, if you don't find yourself, this is what the temple looks like. I think I took this, obviously, look how not green it is, right? So, and then, this is the slab that's there, and this is looking south from, I'm just south of the county highway. This is looking south. When that shot of the temple was also looking south. I did catch a picture with them both in it, I think. You can see the temple kind of over here, and then slab to the east. Hopefully that's somewhat helpful. And remember that again. So it's basically a gabled roof. It's not architecturally complex. So what they're proposing from a design standpoint is here, and they have an annual festival, and I'm just calling it that generic term, and other outdoor events related to their temple, their place of worship. They have adequate parking at the site. They installed all this. It's all installed now. They just put this in over the last couple years. They have very large septic fields to the south. All this is already open space. It's not a woods. It's not a wetland. It's not installing any new roads, any new parking areas. There's no proposed lighting. There's no proposed electricity extended to it. So this is basically, as they say, a pavilion, and it'll be a standard pole construction from their contractor. At least gives you a flavor of it. I think we've all seen them, and I think that ultimately we'll say if it's approved, match the color of the shingle on your building, so you have some cohesiveness. And so anyway, so in the resolution that's in your packet is something staff has crafted, and in a nutshell, overall, staff finds the request can be compatible with the rural residential district, provided the structure remains accessory to the temple use and subject to proposed conditions we did put in that draft. And I'm going to share that on the screen, and then I'll be quiet. The important thing is item number 3, that the activities conducted within or associated with the shelter shall be limited to religious, cultural, et cetera, directly associated with the temple, customarily approved principal place of worship located on subject property and its conditional use permit. And what we're saying is it's just, you can't use it as a rental space. You can't just be holding events there that are not directly tied to your place of worship. We know this because it is zoned rural residential. It's guided for residential use. A conditional use permit relates to a religious purpose, and this is what they are asking for. I would recommend that the staff recommend that you clarify this in the site plan review. They have 20 festivals a year that are related to their religious use. Fabulous, but it's not renting it out for non-related entities or regional events, and that's what it's all about. So, so that's staff's recommendation, as you saw in the packet, generally for approval with those conditions. That's it.
All right. Thank you so very much. I'm opening the public hearing for this item, and does anyone want to come up and speak to the Planning Commission about it? No one other than Montlou? Okay, so. Yeah, thank you. And could you please state your name and your address?
Sure, my name is Dustin Kiyomizi. The temple's address is 4904 217th Avenue Northeast. I live in Medina, which is 8745 Limbs Trail in Medina, Minnesota. So I'm just elected chairman somehow for the past 12 years because my mom was a dying wish for me to help the temple, hence I'm here. But we're trying to create a pavilion so that when we have a festival, you know, families and friends and neighbors could have a comfortable place to, you know, sit down and listen to music and enjoy festivities. And anytime we have a festival, obviously we're respectful of the community, our neighbors. We usually send letters out, announcement and invitation. So, you know, it's not just for Buddhist communities or, you know, participants or members. It's, you know, anyone that wants to attend the festival.
Mhm.
So that's why we're trying to build the outdoor pavilion, just so it's a place for we have comfortable, because right now we have tents and sometimes it's not, you know, comfortable with tents with wind and everything else. So, you know, it also, it's safety concerns with, you know, with the pavilion being constructed by a licensed contractor as well, with the, you know, architect and plans being drawn and so forth. So, and Eric, I want to thank you for walking me through this whole process, because I don't know anything about planning, building, anything. I'm a financial advisor for a living, so I'm just trying to help out as a volunteer.
You missed a meeting apparently.
And thank you for your time. And I mean, if you have any questions, feel free. You know, everybody's here, or, you know, commission.
I do have a question specifically about that clause where it talks about the activities have to basically be attached to your church. Had you had any plans on renting it out for weddings or anything like that?
No. So we've had festivals once a year. So it's from the temple. The club wouldn't pervade. It's just, it's kind of like Easter when it, you know, comes to Christian. So it's very much like Easter. So it's, you know, festival for that. And we have New Year's, which is mid-April, usually like Laotian, Thai, Cambodian, the same New Year. But it's not as big. So usually the Bloom Pavade in late June. It's a bigger one where everyone's invited, neighbors, friends, family, people out of state. So any activity festival comes from, master himself planning and, creating this event. So there's no renting out for wedding or car show or anything like that.
Okay. Just wanted to see if you had any plans for that.
No.
Okay.
Right now it's just once a year, so it's just religious.
So then it'll be
ceremonies.
two times a year, you think, then, for your?
Maybe 2 times a year. Right now we're talking about the New Year, Laotian New Year in April. Then the June one, the festival in late June. So right now the plan is just to have 2.
Mhm.
And obviously would apply for a permit through Eric as well.
And about how many years have you been doing it with tents then, do you think?
I want to say past like maybe 3 years, 4 years.
Okay. And as far as you know, there's been no noise complaints?
We've had none. So, and usually we send invites out, notification. We know pretty much all our neighbors, and we would invite them over and say, please come in and join the fun. We'll usually feed them, free food, drinks, and what have you. Yeah. And Kay and all the Andersons. I mean, I think Ben Anderson is a nephew of Kay and whatever, one of his aunts. He actually drew up the survey for us for no cost. So the neighbors have been very, supportive and helpful and very kind, to our festivities.
Any questions?
I have a comment. Last June, I believe it was, I attended one of the services there.
Mm-hmm.
You should go. It's like stepping into another world. It feels like you're at a Laotian Buddhist temple.
Yeah, inside is really cool. Like outside doesn't do any justice.
Yeah, you had no clue. And you walk in, it's just, you're transported to another world. People were very friendly.
Yep.
They had an amazing array of food after the service.
Yep.
It was.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
It was great.
No, we encourage everyone. We invite everyone. So, like I said, we're respectful people and religion. So, want to not interrupt anyone.
It's also, it's a great asset to the community, and it's very crowded. I guess people come from pretty far probably to
Yeah, the one in June, people come from California, Tennessee, Iowa, Texas, so you know it's pretty well known because the Buddhist temples, they all like talk and know each other, so and they kind of support each other, like you know attendees and friends and family. So it's a big event.
Yeah.
So we enjoy it. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. Like it's mainly just families and friends, so it's just a fun activity for everyone.
Lindsay, anything,
No comments for me. Sounds like a wonderful opportunity.
Thank you.
gentlemen?
No comment, no.
Okay, great. Well, I thank you very much
Thank
for
you for
your
your
time.
time. Appreciate
And
it.
if you could please write your name and address on that paper before you get down.
I was
You
the
already
first
did.
one.
You got, okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing. And do we have any discussion?
I don't see a problem, so.
Yeah, my only question is with the merging of the two parcels, I think that's part of this as well. Is there anything to consider with regards to the conditional use on the one parcel? Does that extend onto the second once they merge?
Well, that's a really good observation. When they made their application, they had, I suppose the city considered it as a unified land use between the two parcels. Them splitting it shouldn't make a difference. The city did not record, as far as I can know, the city did not record the CUP onto parcel A or parcel B. And with this shelter going on to the main structure, it should even clarify that further.
Okay.
The whole religious land use law is complex. And I won't profess to say a whole lot about it, but I think where the city's really laying its cards on the table is simply saying, hey, you want to do this, great, using it for associated house of worship uses, God bless you, have fun, you know.
So then, in your opinion, is the subdividing the best solution then?
It's really the only solution short of a variance for
Right.
from the size limitation. And then if you look at that, how do you address those practical difficulty questions? So the subdividing is, at the end of the day, the easiest tool. It doesn't create any problems for the city that we can see. Again, it just moves a lot line from the west to the east. And it, frankly, in a lot of ways, city probably can't deny it in some sense. Those are administrative, they meet the tests, the city really can't say no, but for a good cause. And in this case, there isn't.
So how much is it costing then for the applicant to do the subdivision and?
In terms of the fees from the city, well, a lot.
Yeah,
The reality is they're gonna have fees in one way or another. If they went through a variance process, probably would be higher because I'm gonna have to have the city attorney involved in that drafting of those permits. In this case, a variance application, a lot subdivision or lot change, the application fee is $1,300. $1,000 of that is escrow. And so if we don't incur expenses.
you said
they-
1,300, not 13,000?
1,300, correct.
1,300,
Yeah,
okay.
They get that back. I think
Okay,
we even chatted about that the other day, so. There's no way around the fee structure
Right.
of something like this. We don't bill for our time, your time. It's just, is there out-of-pocket costs for the city? The applicant mentioned that they have a friend who did the surveying. So really doing this quite affordably.
okay, thank you.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the site plan review.
Okay, and did you want to add any stipulations or anything in there?
As submitted.
Okay, perfect. Page 53 of 63
Yep.
of the packet. It's right here. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
And you're okay with your resolution then?
Right.
Okay, perfect. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 And opposed? Being none, that motion passes.
I might add, the festival this year is June 26th to 8th, so if you wanna have time to stop by, so, you guys don't need, right, just,
Thank you.
see what.
Thank you. Okay, and then this will be going to the city council at the next meeting.
Yep, yep. Not tomorrow, but in June.
June 8th.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You know the day, I know.
And now we're going to discuss short-term rental concepts and possible regulation structure.
All right.
Mr. Johnson.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have anything to show on the screen, so really, I'm just coming back, from the conversation we had last month. And there certainly is a memo in your packet that talked about some of those issues that maybe you folks still want to talk about. You're not asked to approve this draft of ordinances tonight. Rather, provide some other guidance or maybe some changes you would like in them, that we can then hold that public hearing. I would post that in the newspaper next month. Interested parties could show up and we'd go through that ordinance in detail and somebody could give their feedback. Certainly the planning commission could give its feedback then too, in addition to tonight. So the goal is to say, is this about right? Is this package of stuff kind of close? It's not perfect, but is it kind of what we like? And then let's hear more comment from the public and maybe it needs more refinement or a wholesale change, whatever you folks want. So that's kind of the goal tonight. And so I've received some comments from Commissioner Crescenzo and Commissioner how do I pronounce her last name? Pagnac.
Pagnac.
And so I tried to incorporate some of those, but in some of the narrative here. But essentially, I think where you left it was still talk about an administrative license versus an interim use permit framework. Talk about should you allow accessory uses for short-term rentals, spacing and separation requirements, and finally some operational standards. My 2 cents is in the packet, so I think that's kind of where I'd leave it for you to hammer out and say what do you like, what don't you like, and I can give you my 2 cents again. So with that I'll maybe pass on. So.
Okay. Okay, and I don't think, we don't have to have an open, public
this is
hearing
just
now,
your
right?
discussion.
And when is the next city newsletter coming out then?
Oh, I think they're trying to get a deadline out here next week for turning in applications or articles from staff to Carrie Frost, who puts it together. So we will have another one later in the
Right.
season.
So I'm just concerned that we might miss, with the next newsletter coming out, we might miss, there being enough time for people to get notice of the meeting for our next one.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, we're required by statute just to put it in the newspaper.
Mhm.
I
The
know
newspaper or the newsletter?
Newspaper
Okay.
in the city's legal newspaper, and that you might as well throw it out the window for all the people who are
exactly.
going to see the legal notice, right?
Yeah.
And, so I'd have to check with Carrie and say, hey, we're considering something, but I don't know what the timing of that might be.
Mhm.
We can certainly put it on our website, and there's other tools of social media that are out there that I think we could probably access. I'm not the best person for that. I'm old school. I don't have Facebook. I don't have any of those. But other people do, and you folks do, and we can maybe get that out to the world. And we do have a few people we do know operate an Airbnb type thing, and I think we can reach out to them specifically and say, because we want your input.
Right, I think that would be helpful.
So yeah.
Okay, comments?
I have a couple. First one is I think the staff did a great job. I appreciate very much the updates. I think it's heading in the right direction. My one question, well, one of a few questions, the 10-day limit for how long they can have rented the Airbnb or VBRO. I wonder if we should open that up, because I think of in Blaine at the sports stadium, they have like golf events, and the professionals will be there longer than 10 days. And so perhaps we want to consider capitalizing on, not in a financial way, but just, allowing the East Bethel community to be able to have some of those participants in our community for the time. And so that would allow, or in that we would need to have more than 10 days.
What do you think would be a reasonable length for that, Lindsay?
I mean, I don't know exactly on golfing, but I was thinking closer to 20 days maybe. I don't think a whole month would be, I think that's a lot, but what do you guys think?
I was noting the same thing, but I didn't even know what's the point of trying to limit the time? Because what if if you have a property on Coon Lake and somebody wants to rent it for a season or a month or two or whatever, why would that not be a good thing?
That's true.
In fact, it seems like that would be better than having an influx of random people. To have one consistent renter would be a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially if they stay under the 120-day, for example, limit of their permit.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair.
Eric, do you know why 10 days came
I
up?
think a lot of cities that have looked at this, their intent of this is to make sure it stays short-term rental. And if it gets into, let's just say 30 days, the city has a different tool for that. We just have a traditional rental license. Also, if it's meant to encourage vacationers or encourage other commerce, maybe that's shorter term renters might be more inclined to see it as a vacation versus, hey, I'm just renting here to live here for X period of time. But you guys make good points too. It's like, what's the difference? But I think so maybe the compromise is, well, put 20 in and see if it works, Start with 20. If it doesn't work or it's too much, too little, you can always change it.
Yeah, we could get the feedback from the community
Yeah,
too
yeah.
on
Yeah.
if that's the
I would
right
like that.
balance.
Not to nitpick, but if you're going to go at that range, I would say 21, because that's a full 3 weeks.
Oh, there you go.
21 days?
If there is any more on that, I also wondered about the homeowner needing to be within 5 miles of the home. I think that's kind of a tall ask, because most people are renting it out because they're not necessarily, yes, largely they'll be out of town, so we have to figure out that, but to ask them to be within 5 miles, why wouldn't they just stay at their home at that point? So I would say within a reasonable driving distance so that they can attend to issues, and we can define what that means, but I'm thinking within, say, a couple hour drive perhaps, or some other version of that. I've seen as well that people say, or a reasonable surrogate, but that becomes tricky. But I wanted to open it up to the committee to discuss, you know, how far away from the home do we want the owner or the permit owner to be?
Right, I'm thinking a reasonable surrogate would
Yeah.
be good also.
Agreed.
You know, one thing of having some kind of parameter of distance, you don't want absentee owners. You don't, and sometimes they become out of sight, out of mind. Maybe you simply say, must reside within Anoka County. I mean, that's a big county. You could be living in Blaine, that's far more than 5 miles, but it's very definitive. You're kind of centrally located to some extent in that. But also it does give it, does have a relief parameter of, if you're not within that, you can appoint a third party. And so what tends to happen is people rent these things, again, the vast majority of them are without issue, we know that. But in times when there are problems, there needs to be somebody who's responsible, and we need to be able to get a hold of them too. Not, oh, I live in Florida, or I live in Illinois, and I rent this out in the summer, and I'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll talk then. You're either, you live in the county, or you appoint a representative that's responsible, and that's the rationale. Is it perfect? No, but maybe Anoka, I mean, if you live in Anoka County, that could be the south side of Blaine. I mean, that's 20 miles away. But at least it's a defined space, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I generally agree. I think it's tricky to force them to be living within a certain area.
You can, you may.
I mean, we can, but is that
Sure.
the best thing? It concerns me as well, just because, you know, if you're renting this place out, it's either your permanent home that you're on vacations, you're gonna rent it out,
Right.
or it's, you know, your second home and you're renting it out for that purpose, in which case you largely aren't gonna, if it is your second home, you're largely not gonna be in the area, so then that's where the representative needs to
Correct.
be within said
Some
distance.
space, yep.
Yeah. And they don't have to be living within it, but they have to be within a certain distance of the property.
And they can respond.
Yes, exactly. So that'd be my feedback to the staff on that.
I would rather see a responsible person be a time as opposed to a county or miles, because I look at it as if something was happening and the sheriff department was called and they wanted to see somebody on site, you know, what?
I just don't know how we could, I mean, looking at ordinances and just say 20 minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
How do we define, you know, I think driving here to Quick Trip in town, we know that takes less than 20 minutes. But where does that 20-minute window cease? And to be fair, we can be anybody there with a stopwatch? No. But, so at that point, having a distance parameter is just cleaner.
Or geographical.
Yeah, it just, they have to, just Anoka County, it's definable. There's no ambiguity about it. There's no
Well,
gray test
it's
about
not
it.
good because the border for the county is
Yeah,
5 minutes away, or not even from here.
yeah.
And-
Or you could say a boundary of roads, or you could say, or Anoka, or what's the county to the west? That was not Scott, that's south. What's the county to the west of here?
Sherburne.
Sherburne. I mean, you could define it within.
How about a radius of mileage?
Yeah, that's fine. Something that's from a point of center, you know, or within
From
10
the-
miles of the
structure.
or of Anoka County border or something. We can come up with something that's just definable and easy.
I was just thinking of a radius from, unless that's too complicated, a radius from the property.
I think that'd be best, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like that's what they're trying to do. I would just challenge the 5 miles. It's a little tight, but we
It
can.
is. Well, every city has somebody on call. And League of Minnesota Cities defines their distance in time, of response time. And that's why I would go down that path, because that's already a standard.
Yeah. For emergency vehicles.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, no, it's for non-emergency too, I mean, it's like a sewer backup,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, for crew that have to show up in the
Yeah.
middle of the night when it's 20
Right,
below,
the
right?
league expects somebody to respond in 2 hours, I mean, that's the rule.
Yeah,
And so that's where I think something like this is a pretty reasonable standard to say to an owner, we need somebody to respond to some, I mean,
We can
what if
come
the
up with
place is
some-
on fire, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and it's burned down, maybe they wanna see the representative come to the site. Everything's under control now, but if
Is
they
it-
would
Is
come.
it possible to get here in 20 minutes or 30 minutes from pretty much anywhere in Anoka County or Sherburne County? Or Chisago County, by and large?
No.
Okay. So that, so 45 minutes,
You know,
probably by and large?
yeah.
You know,
Getting closer.
within
Better,
an hour. I mean,
yeah.
at that
Yeah.
point, just having a geographical marker is just simpler. I don't know.
I'd say within an hour would be reasonable.
Yeah,
I mean, emergency service, you know, I mean, we call it the golden hour. I mean,
yeah.
we'd like to have things handled by then, so. I think it makes sense that Representative Surgate could be present within, you know, an hour of whatever. It may happen to be a utility failure or something requiring first responders of some sort. An hour would seem reasonable, because what are they really gonna do other than relay the information to the property owner? I mean, you know, they're gonna say, hey, I'm here, and that's about all they can do, so.
So within 1 hour?
Seems
I
reasonable.
would be good with that.
What do you think?
Okay.
So that's the responsible
The
assigned
responsible
person.
party.
Exactly.
Right,
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay.
Perfect. And then the next one I wanted to inquire about was, and I appreciate the staff's help with, you know, the secondary structures and in particular in-law suites, but then it made me wonder about, there are a lot of Airbnb owners that are offering their RVs for rent on their properties, so we should evaluate if that's something that we want to allow or not. It's not currently in consideration, so curious for everybody's opinion.
I guess I didn't consider that when I read principal dwelling on a site,
Or did I?
but that doesn't mean some people won't try for that. There are empty lots if you park an RV on there. Does that become the principal dwelling? So,
Yeah, it's an interesting, perspective too, but I've seen people where it's their permanent home, but then they will continue to live in that, but they'll Airbnb their RV that sits in their driveway.
I don't think
No.
that's my take on it is I don't think that's the intent of what you're trying to enable.
No.
Agreed.
RV use.
Not at all.
Accessory structure, if it's code compliance,
Mhm.
it's designed for full-time habitation, septic, insulation, you know, meets the building code, well, maybe, but those probably will still be few and far between.
I mean, I generally agree, I mean, but, you know, on behalf of the city, I think it's better if we limit it, so we don't perhaps allow RVs, but it is happening, and so we should evaluate it and make a stance on it.
If you
Yeah, I
don't
think
like it, I would encourage you to put a note in here that simply says rental of RVs is not
Yeah.
Permitted per
permitted.
permits or whatever.
I agree. I think it's really good to discuss it. As a farm, we get emails probably once a week from companies wanting to set that type of thing up on our property.
Then they're gonna try
I'm
to
interested.
pump out their systems and, you know,
Mhm.
where can we hook up our water, and none of these properties are designed for these things, you know?
Right.
That's what the state parks are for, that's what county parks are for, that's what, you know, anyway.
Yeah, and it enters all sorts of other concerns with making sure the RV is properly just, you know, handled as far as their water and sewage, so seems like it opens a new can of worms that we don't want to worry about. But yeah, thank you for the time. That was my couple questions.
I know we chatted a little bit about the interim use thing, and, you know, for what it's worth, my opinion is not as important as your folks is, but just, there's pros and cons to having an interim use piece and a more an administrative piece. And, you know, when you have two regulatory pathways, that can be complex, and we want to make it simple for people. But on the flip side, you know, when there's big structures with a lot of bedrooms that can have a lot of impact on neighbors, maybe you want to have those few more layers of review. So that's why we came up with the two-tier or the two process, and maybe it should be 5 bedrooms, maybe it should be 3 bedrooms, and I don't know. That's just why we proposed it the way it was.
I think it made sense, as long as it's not too much burden to the city to have it as 2 separates. I know they mentioned that it is a little bit more, but
Yeah.
manageable, but it seems like it's appropriate just based on the difference in
Yeah.
what the events, we'll call it events, or the rentals would be for larger homes versus,
Yeah,
you
there'd be
know,
more cars, there'd be more use, there'd be more
Exactly.
people milling around, and which isn't bad, but on the same token, it's just different than a small little home.
Great.
I had a question about, on page 63, number 3 of the interim use permit term. And I brought this up last time when we discussed it. Why would it matter if if it wasn't used for 180 consecutive days?
Oh, yeah, you were right. Why did we leave that in there? So I think when we were thinking about interim use permits and how they're issued here in the city, there is a complexity of, do interim use permits run with the land, or do they have a termination date inherent in their issuance?
Well, you have a 5-year term for that.
Right, so that was the first part of, that's the first part of it. The second piece of it is, if somebody's going to not use it within that 180 consecutive days, having that stew out there for them using it once a year, it just seems that it's inconsistent with having that permit in the first place. Either use it or let's get rid of it. It's certainly a choice, but if they're not really going to use the permit, especially if you're not going to have a total number of Airbnbs, I mean, that's something else to talk about. Do you want to limit the number of these units? So if somebody has a permit and you have a limit of them in the city and somebody's not using it, let's either get rid of the limit or let's get rid of the 180-day concept.
Well, the point I had made about that was, if somebody just wants to rent it out during the summer, then you've got
Right.
a lot of time where it's
Well,
not
the
being
question
used.
also might be, what does the term use mean? Hey, I've been trying to rent it out, but nobody booked it. Does that mean I'm not using it? So I think that's one more clarification we might need to add. But if you want to get rid of it, that's totally okay too.
I also don't see what the mechanism of oversight for that would be.
Could you say that again?
I don't see what mechanism for oversight for the city
Well, we
would.
do have an ask earlier in the code that requires them to provide when we ask them for their occupancy. Let's see.
But do you have that much staff time that you can be reviewing all these?
Well, again,
and
we don't think
trying
it's
to-
going to be a lot. Short answer is no, but how do we control these other ones? If you guys are comfortable not having a 180-day parameter, that's okay. It always can be put back in, it can always be changed.
I think I would be comfortable on a year. I mean, if somebody doesn't rent it for a whole year,
Right,
annual
That's
permit is
different
more
than-
reasonable to me.
yeah.
That makes sense.
Because I do think we're gonna end up putting a feet away from another one. And if this guy keeps getting a permit, and this lady wants one but can't get one, this one's never getting rented, we're gonna run into something there.
Yeah, that's a good point, and we can come back to it, but the, I don't think we should limit, like, two houses being next to each other, not being able to be rented. I think it's perfectly fine as long as we're not hitting that noise complaint or any other issues that we're concerned about, but we can come back to this point and finish off the first, but I agree, I mean, changing the 180 day to a year
So
or
360.
taking it away completely would be fine for me.
Are we kind of in agreement on the 360?
I think that's
You guys all good?
reasonable, yeah.
Are you able to do that then, please? Thank you.
And then the having two houses next to each other, it sounds like you're against having two
I
next
am,
to each other?
I don't wanna see a street of rentals.
Mm,
I mean, that's exaggerating your point,
sure, yeah.
but I think that, I just don't wanna see a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
I would think even the people who live in the Coon Creek Beach area don't want everyone rented out.
I don't know, it seems like a rare situation personally, because most of those people are living there permanently, right? So then
Yeah,
that means they all would have to decide to
Right.
leave and rent their places out. So to me, it seems unlikely. But, I mean, maybe we put a limit, but it seems like, having two next to each other would be fine. But to your point, maybe we limit it at, I don't know, 5 or 3 or whatever the number is, so that we don't end up, getting, like you say, a string.
Right.
But I don't know, it'd be unfair for, two neighbors to not be able to offer it just by proximity, but.
I think that makes sense. It's kind of an extreme you went to, Corey,
Yeah,
with the whole
for sure.
thing, but I understand what you mean. I mean,
Yeah.
if we're gonna let it 2 houses, why aren't we gonna let 10 houses? But
Yeah.
some sort of a cap on that for a
Yeah,
neighborhood
I
of
don't know
sort.
what
Yeah.
is the secret. That's where, like I say, I would love, gets back to my point last time, to like have whoever did the survey on the cannabis, and the attorney come in with this plan. This is what most cities do. I'd like to see more of a big cultured proposal of what other cities do, or the other cities that have done things on this.
Or perhaps staff has a recommendation on the number of houses.
I know so on page 62, subdivision 7 of this, you have a big yellow space right there that, so from what I heard, I think you folks, I thought I heard that, okay, you're comfortable with no spacing right now. And so it would just be basically there would be no spacing requirement. And so essentially subdivision 7 would be deleted at this point.
Could we add to subdivision 7, maybe stating adjacent lots?
Yeah, it's up to you, absolutely.
Have a certain distance between them. You planted a seed, Corey, and I'm thinking if a whole street is available, and let's just say the graduating class of 2031 rents the whole street, that would be within subdivisions if we don't address that. So it might be kind of a good safeguard to have some sort of a proximity with adjacent buildings, or a special request needs to be made, kind of clarifying activities that might be taking place, something to that nature.
If it was, say, as an example, 200 feet from the rental unit, you can't have another one within 200 feet. Then you could have them in the same neighborhood, but it would be spaced out kind of farther away, and it'd be pretty random to try and turn it into a cluster of those things.
Yeah, it was a hypothetical, likely wouldn't come up, but yeah, I think 200 feet, the beach, most lots there are less than 100 feet wide, right? So.
In Coon Lake, right, they're 100 probably.
Yeah, no, those are the, so, maybe take that kind of a lot size into consideration with this, the spacing requirement in subdivision 7.
So maybe like 250 then, that you would have to alternate, or you wouldn't be able to have adjacent ones at 250 feet.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, that's where I still think, we should give them a little more grace, because it's just by circumstance, people might want to do it, but they're next to each other, but I get the not wanting to have too many in a cluster, but, stand by, wanting to allow some flexibility for those people that do
I mean,
just have to
we're
be next to each other.
pretty restrictive on how many people can be there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
it's true.
2 per bedroom and 3 guests per
Mm-hmm,
unit.
No.
Is 3 guests too little?
it's true. That is
I
pretty
mean,
small if you have a family of
that's
5.
Exactly,
Mhm.
that came over for just the day,
Mhm.
I don't, that's a tough one too.
Right, and that's a fair point. I mean, we probably could consider opening that up, but then if you're restricting it on that, then why also add the restriction of we can't have 2 houses next to each other? If you're already limiting how many people can be
Right.
legally in the home. And the general purpose of, the rentals being not for events, that they should be just
Yeah.
for rentals.
So from a maximum occupancy standpoint, it's, shall not exceed 2 persons per bedroom. So if it's 4 bedroom, they could have 8
Right.
people there, plus 1 additional occupant, so they could have 9.
9. And then 3
Unless they had
guests.
an IUP,
Doesn't it say 3
unless they had
guests?
an IUP, and then it would be more. I mean, if they had more than 4 bedrooms.
Right. So it's a function of the number of bedrooms,
Mhm.
regardless of the method. So if they had 3 bedrooms, they could have 6 people plus 1, so they could have 7 people as registered guests. They could also have 3 people who are not registered guests be present at the short-term rental at any one time. So
Mhm.
people come over and visit, again, it's not intended for a party or an event. Somebody might have a guest or 2 over for the day, that's fine. But again, it's still a function of septic capacity in some way. Maybe should it be 4 persons who are unregistered guests or 2? I don't know. There's got to be some number that makes sense, some sense. Try to think about, I go with my family, we're really not having guests over. I mean, I'm in a different city or I'm in a different area. What guests am I having as a guest of a guest? I don't know. It seems odd to me, but I'm sure it happens.
Do you know where it says further limited by septic capacity, how's that is measured or certified?
Yeah, we would, so under Minnesota rules, every 3 years, somebody has to have their septic system pumped and we have to have the record of it. So, when it was installed, we should have a record somewhere of the size and number of bedrooms it's qualified for. And then are they maintaining it effectively? So, when somebody would apply for a permit, we'll want evidence of that pumping or evidence of the size, if we don't have it already on record. So it's not a subjective parameter. It's sized for 3 bedrooms, and that's it. So if they show up, hey, I'm gonna have a 5-bedroom, I want to have 5, I got 5 compliant bedrooms, yeah, that's fine, but your septic only says 3.
Right.
So, so that's the limitation.
What if they have a holding tank?
Well, I guess in that point, if they want to fill up their holding tank, then they can have 2 persons per bedroom plus 1 additional person. Yeah.
I just bring that up because
You know how that's gonna go, right?
my in-laws had a holding tank and they pumped it on a Monday, and their son, my ex-brother-in-law, went up there with buddies.
Filled it up.
8 guys filled it in 1 weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And so they were not happy.
Yeah, and the alarm goes off.
Yep.
Yep.
So it makes me think
The
about
other,
that.
something you might want to consider, if you have neighbors that are next to each other, and so So back to the subdivision 7 thing, no short-term rental shall be located within 250 feet of another licensed or approved short-term rental. Maybe you even give yourself some capacity that says, so the first operator's there, and then the neighbor wants to come in. Maybe the neighbor that wants to come in can only be done by interim use permit as some kind of mechanism of control. So you can't have 2 administratively issued permits. The second party has to have it by IUP. It's a possibility. Gives you some more control and gives them a way to approach it and gives you some chance to review it. They may be needing IUP anyway as that second home, but at that point, what's the difference?
I really look forward to hearing from people who rent them, to be honest with you. Because we could sit here and talk till midnight about possibilities, but I would love to hear real life stories.
Yeah, and the community too, because, you know, if they're using Airbnbs today,
Yes.
they're gonna have a perspective on what's gonna, you know, benefit them or to what
Yep.
they're looking for. Yeah.
So what would you like me to kind of say in there, just the 250 and to see what happens? You can always change it.
I like the 250 and the interim use permit if within the 250.
And then 360 days for the subdivision 11 instead of 180, right?
Gotcha.
So if they don't use it within a year,
Yeah.
you're okay with that?
365,
365. Well,
360 in a circle.
and I'm just a little bit concerned about, I'd love it to go in the newsletter, to announce it to people.
I will check with Carrie and I'll send you all an email if that's possible. And basically, it's not that this ordinance has to be in there. It's rather
Announcing the meeting.
announcement of the meeting and we're taking your input.
Right, so I'm thinking that maybe we do it the month after next, if it's,
Let me check with Carrie. If she thinks we can do it, I'll just write a short blurb and I know she's always looking for things to put in there. So
Right.
I'm more than happy to ask and invite people to the meeting and
okay, well, how about if we can get the newsletter out in time, then we'll have it as soon as possible, the meeting,
in
as soon as
June.
possible after
Now we'll
next.
do it in July.
What's that?
If I get it in the newsletter and I get it out in time, we'll have the public hearing in end of June. And if not, we'll have the public hearing at the end of July.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
All right, I can do with that.
okay. Any other things?
Good idea.
I think we're good.
All right.
As always, we thank you.
Oh, just,
For all of
you
your
guys gotta
help.
provide, it's great.
So, we have a staff update coming up.
Oh, well, we have a newsletter coming up, so.
Yay.
If you want to get the newsletter, we can put that in, but no, I think that's enough for you. I don't have anything fabulous to share. Next month, might have an application for, I don't know if, it'll be a concept plan review. I'm sorry, it'll be for concept planning, for so if you know where the movie theater is, the Imagine movie theater, there's some property to the south that's vacant. There's 2 apartment buildings there, your mind's eye, if you can see that. There's somebody who's interested in buying a parcel that abuts 65 and converting it to a mixed or a multi-tenant industrial facility. Right now it's zone B3. So what are the possibilities of a rezoning or a text amendment for that space? So that'll be in front of you. We'll see.
That's interesting.
It's interesting because your B3 district, in some sense, could be more intense than a light industrial use. I mean, so if you look at your code, you know, B3 can be far more busy than a light industrial use. I mean, our brain, we tell, oh, industrial, it's the smokestacks, it's the, no, if you drive over there, you look at what your actual industrial zone includes. They're actually really nice, quiet occupied buildings, so it's strange the way that kind of works, but anyway, that's coming at you.
So how many data centers have applied?
Yeah, no, none. I
None?
think that would be a tough sell out here.
Mhm.
I think that requires a lot of water for cooling,
Mhm.
and just the price of land here per square foot for something like that is just, I would think, blows it out of the water. But I haven't heard any of that.
Okay,
So your city's rules don't have anything pro or con about them. So if they show up, I don't know how we'd address it.
I did have a question, and I probably should have asked it for council update. Who owns the Nexus building? Does that Nexus group?
It's Nexus, it's their, yeah, they're
Okay,
based
so they
out of,
bought
I
it
think-
and-
Yeah, they're
2 years
based, I think,
ago.
out of Duluth area, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. I just did a little bit of research, and they have a conditional use permit
Okay.
from the city, and so, well.
which goes with the property, right?
Goes with the property. And so as City Administrator Mason on the news appropriately noted that, we're watching and hopefully things get worked out.
Exactly, I mean, so from what I read, they're not abandoning it completely, they want to work these things out.
Right,
I mean, who knows?
yeah, it's out of, I mean, they're licensed by the state,
Mhm.
so we don't have a whole lot to do with it,
Mhm.
for good or for bad.
Okay,
That's a tough business.
it is.
So that's all I got for you.
Nothing else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The meeting is closed.